Hi, everyone. Welcome to this week's episode of the Daughter Dearest podcast. We were gone for a week, so I don't know what number we're on, but I'm Simone Canego.
And I'm Olivia Canego.
And today we are going to talk about a topic that is very fitting because I just got off of a plane very late last night. So we're going to talk about vacation, travel, crazy vacation stories, maybe some of our favorite vacation stories. So, I look like I just got off of a plane because I did. Those of you who can't see me, I'm really tired. A 7-hour time difference is kind of no joke. It's like, oh, there's a whole nother day ahead of me.
Yeah, I'm sure you're exhausted.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm tired myself and I didn't do anything. So,
Yeah, well, that's how it goes. I mean, most days I'm just tired anyways, but today I'm exceptionally tired. But yeah, I just got back from Israel. And it was an amazing trip. We were gone we were supposed to be gone for 9 days. We were gone for 10 days because, like many of my recent international trips, I got some kind of stomach bug. This time, I believe I had food poisoning.
Lovely.
And we were supposed to be leaving for the airport at 9:30 in the morning. And at 6 o'clock when I woke up, I thought, oh, something's not right. And it proceeded to become worse and worse and worse.
Oh, fantastic.
Oh yeah, to the point where we had a friend staying in the room next to us and she could hear me, I'll say projectile vomiting. She couldn't hear the projectile part, but she could hear the vomiting from inside her room. Oh yeah, it was one of the worst for me. Anyway, so that being said, we stayed an extra night. Luckily, thank you to Delta for being very accommodating with switching our flight. Insurance? Well, like if I needed to be evacuated, yes, but
no, like on your flight. Because I never book that. I don't know if I should be booking that. I never book it. I'm like, it's $30. I'm going to save that.
Yeah, I never book it either. I mean, usually if I'm going to change a flight, I'm going to change it. And they usually charge you the fare difference. But this woman was so nice. I mean, I don't know if there was a fare difference or not, but she was like, you sound horrible. I'm not going to charge you because you're sick. So, we're just rebooking you. And I was like, oh, thank you so much. So, but I made it home. I'm in one piece. But the trip itself was amazing. And Israel is a really amazing country to visit. But we'll move on to really kind of some of our favorite trips. And not that Israel hasn't been a favorite trip for me. I've been there many times and I've had a lot of amazing experiences there. But I think talking about some of the things that really stood out to me of other trips we've taken. And I guess even before we go there, let's talk about travel itself. I was saying to you, what did I say to you yesterday? I hate travel.
Yeah.
And you're like, no, you don't.
Every single time.
And it's not travel. It's the travel to get to travel, right? It's like just the getting there piece and the getting home piece that is just so rough. And it seems like these days, although we were pretty lucky with our flights not being too delayed, but when we were coming home yesterday, the weather was so bad. The plane before us actually had to divert to a different airport. So we were really lucky we got in. But it was like a milkshake. Like obviously the flight attendants couldn't get up the entire flight. And the whole plane was like shaking, literally like we were in a blender. I was like, oh, this is not good.
This is your long flight?
Okay. The end of the long flight was like that. Just the last hour, it was just coming into Atlanta. I guess there was a really bad weather situation. And then leaving, we had to pass through it again when we were going south. So it was really, thankfully my stomach was empty after, that experience. So I didn't have to worry about being sick on the plane. But yeah, travel's hard, I mean, it's like so much fun to go places. It's the getting there that's just.
You know what? And it is a lot of fun, but afterwards I need a whole vacation for my vacation. But maybe I'm just a tired individual. Like,
no, it's true. I need a vacation for my vacation
when I don't have my sleep schedule. Like I get thrown off by the littlest of things. I'm like,
And yeah. We were up until, at home, we go to bed at 9 o'clock. Okay. 10 at the maximum, right? We were up until 1 and 2 o'clock in the morning.
Who are you?
I don't really know who I am right now because that is not me, but we did it. And so now I'm going to be suffering for a while to, I don't know, get my sleep pattern back in. And then tomorrow I have to go to a book fair. So I'm going to be sitting out at a book fair for 3 hours, which I'm thankful for. But still, I'm like, okay, I got to like perk up. I got to go to bed early tonight and get my energy.
Sounds so much fun, though. I'm glad you guys had a good trip.
It was a really good trip. So let's talk about the favorite trips that you've gone on, because we travel quite a bit in our family and we drag everybody with us most times.
Yeah.
I say drag, but
I was thinking about that today, about how crazy it must be to just see all of us together in an airport or like on a plane. Like, not only like, wow, you're taking your whole family on vacation. Wow, you're taking your 6 kids to Brazil or somewhere across the world. Like, that's crazy. It's like is consistent organization. I'm surprised there hasn't been like a Home Alone situation. You leave a kid at home. Oh, well.
I'm pretty good about not forget most of the time, not forgetting.
So,
They're not with travel. Travel, I've never lost anyone or forgotten anyone. So that's pretty good. That's pretty good. And with
does
travel,
Disney
I'm
World
like,
not count as travel?
okay, well, if you really want to go there, sure. I guess that counts as travel. It counts as an amusement park. I don't know. But yeah, so I did lose Emma one time, and that wasn't really, it was like she went to throw something away, and then we moved, and then she wasn't there where I thought she was going to be, and then I had a complete panic, and I had to shut down the park to make sure nobody stole her, and we found her in 5 minutes. It was okay, but it was like terrifying for me.
Yeah.
Thank you for bringing that up.
We never have like incident-free vacations, though.
Rarely.
Yeah.
And we're not talking about dad on this one, but a lot of times the incidents have to do with his parking skills. So we tend to have, but we're not going to talk about him on this one.
Yeah, I feel like honestly, he doesn't even make up like 50% of the situations.
Yeah, I mean,
so like in Brazil, our incident was the fact that you got actually dysentery. So talking about like favorite vacations, Brazil was, and that's the trip we went on in last December, and that was probably one of my favorites, if not my favorite, that we've done as a family. It was super cool. It was just an amazing experience. But in the end of the day, you did get dysentery. Like, what?
I don't know what's so. I mean, I know what's wrong with me. So I'm on a proton pump inhibitor. Okay, and if you. It suppresses the acid from my stomach because I have Barrett's esophagus, so I have reflux, right? And that burns my esophagus. So you take this med, and so it keeps down the acid. The problem when you keep down the acid, you don't have the acid in your stomach that normally would kill off certain things. So I was reading stuff today with food poisoning. You're 4 times more likely to get food poisoning. You're 6 times more likely to get any kind of stomach bug. And it makes sense because if you don't have the acid to kill things, then, here you go. So that's why 3 out of our last 4 international trips, I had something, including amoebic dysentery when we went to Brazil. I mean, who gets that,
I don't know, honestly.
I do.
Like, I've never met anyone else that's gotten dysentery.
Yeah, well, maybe they just didn't know it, but yeah. So that was a bad one. But that trip itself was a really cool trip.
I mean, yeah, I don't know anybody that's had any similar opportunity to just like stay in an eco lodge in the middle of the rainforest.
Yeah, we did that. We swam in the Rio Negro, and the Rio Negro is really interesting because it's very acidic. So you really don't have mosquitoes right around that area. Obviously, the further you get into the rainforest and away from the river, obviously there's mosquitoes. But
you got lucky on that trip.
Yeah, I mean,
with the malaria meds.
Yeah, so that's one thing we all hate taking, and is Malarone or any kind of anti-malarial meds. And
yeah, I took something weird, right?
Yeah, you took some kind of antibiotic, which you've taken for other stuff. So,
well, yeah, but for some reason I took it, and then so we took it the day before, maybe the day that we were supposed to leave in the morning. And Jacob and I go to Target, and we both taken it, 2 different meds, and we're both like in Target, like, oh my God, I'm gonna throw up. So I was like, okay, let's just get drinks. Like maybe our blood sugar's just low. We'll be fine. No, I chug my Gatorade, and then immediately we're driving out of the parking lot. I'm like, can you pull over? Like I need to throw up, and I threw up out the window on the side of Dad's car. So.
Yeah, that was pretty disgusting. I wasn't there to see it, but I would imagine it was pretty disgusting.
Yeah, it was like bright red.
Well, because you just drank Gatorade.
I know.
Yeah, I mean, hello. So, yeah, we didn't take meds for that one. And we're very lucky because we weren't the area we were in, really, we hardly saw mosquitoes.
And Millie made my favorite joke of all time when she was like, I don't understand why I have to take these malaria meds. I probably already had malaria. I was like, okay, Millie. It's really fun now that all of the kids are older too. And I'm saying this like, oh, I'm not a mom, but like we're all able to like gang up with each other or like on each other in a fun way. I mean, sometimes it gets mean, but that's how kind of how siblings are. But I like there was a lot more laughs and good moments on this trip than I think in the past trips when it's been all of us.
Yeah. I mean, again, everybody's getting older. So you do. And the nice thing with having 6 kids, you can choose who you want to hang out with or who you don't want to hang out with. So
it makes it easy because it's like you get annoyed with one person and you can just like switch off.
yeah. But yeah, I think overall everybody got along really well on that trip, and we saw really cool stuff. I mean, the meeting of the waters, the swimming with pink dolphins. I mean, that was a little creepy, but really cool.
I liked it.
And then swimming in the Rio Negro, I was like, okay, are we swimming on top of a caiman right now? Like, are we about to get eaten? That was my fear. Or are there piranhas near here? And supposedly, where in the Rio Negro, the piranhas aren't like the man-eating kind.
No,
I don't know if that's true or not.
there's
I did
only
not
like very
research
few
that.
piranha species that actually like will eat humans.
Well,
But I mean,
in
anyone
Brazil.
will eat anything when they're hungry. So
Yeah, right. I mean, so. But anyway, that was a really cool trip. Other than the dysentery, and nobody else got sick, so it is definitely my acid suppression issue. I think for me, one of my favorite trips. Sorry, I had to take a sip of water. That didn't involve you guys. I mean, sad to say, was South Africa. I mean, that really, and another time I got really sick.
did you?
Right when we landed. Yeah, the first 2 days we missed going.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, we missed
Sorry, it was
most of Cape Town because I was so sick. Oh, that's right, you were babysitting. Yeah, it was an amazing trip, from seeing the wine area in South Africa to obviously Cape Town itself, and then we stayed at this amazing place called Birkenhead House. I believe that was the name of it. And it was on the water. I've never seen such a beautiful view. It was really unbelievable. And they set up this table for us where we'd sit outside to eat, right overlooking the rocks and the water. And we were like, each time we went to a new place, we're like, this is even nicer than the last place. We shouldn't leave here. And then then we went to 2 other places after that, which were both safari. And that I loved the most.
Yeah.
I mean, so interesting. You're just out there, and there's like lions eating antelope, and hyenas waiting for the lions to leave so that they can grab whatever's left, and just the sounds that you hear. It's obviously unlike anything I'd experienced anywhere else.
Yeah.
Because that would be really weird if that happened in my backyard. But it was so cool. And people are like, oh, that's so gross. You watched lions eating a giraffe. And I was like, yeah, but that's what happens. I mean, and being able to see it like up close, and they don't mess with you in your vehicle. For some reason, they have gotten used to vehicles. So, but obviously, if you stand up or if you step out of your vehicle, that could be a problem. So you have to just sit there and be quiet as you're watching animals tear each other to shreds. And I don't know, it's just something like that. I think the
really
noises
cool,
that they
though,
make,
honestly.
the noises that the
You
lions,
don't
the
think
way
about it.
they growl. I mean, it like you can feel their growl. Like it like vibrates. It's really cool. And then the hyenas, they make this kind of screaming sound when they're coming in, and they call each other, and they all come running, and it's just it's wild. I mean, obviously it is in the wild, but it's a wild experience to see and hear that happen. So that really was my favorite. I do have a funny story about that, though. The last place we stayed was called Swalu Kalahari. So it was in the Kalahari Desert in South Africa. And they have Kalahari lions there, which is different than a regular lion. They have a really dark mane. They're really cool looking. And the landscape was beautiful. Everything was great. The place was probably the nicest place we have ever stayed in our lives. Well, I thought it would be really cool because they had this option of sleeping under the stars. And I thought this would be a great idea, sleep under the stars. Okay, we didn't realize how nice the room was. I would have never slept under the stars. I also thought it was going to be at the resort itself that they have this separate little area where,
Glamping.
and yeah, glamping, and people are there to make sure you're okay, right? Like you are
Yeah.
sleeping out in the wild and there are lions and hyenas. There's all kinds of stuff. No, you don't stay anywhere near. They drive you like 5, 10 miles away from anything because you want to have a great view of the stars and they drop you off. So you have
Oh
this
my
tent.
God.
Oh, you have this tent. You have this. Okay, it's the view is unbelievable. So you have this balcony. They came and cooked us dinner, and then they left. Okay, well, two problems with that. First problem was that they it's the Kalahari Desert. It doesn't rain, right? So that night it rained so much they got their annual total of rainfall in that one night. Okay. So we could see the clouds coming in and we were like, I think it's going to rain. And they're like, no, it's not going to rain. I thought the whole tent was going to blow off of its foundation. Okay. Then problem number two, and this is a story I'm going to tell you. And, I don't know how many people are listening to this, but I'll apologize in advance. Story number two, the bathroom, there is a toilet, but you have to walk outside to get to it. Okay. And they feed you and then they give you wine. And then you're like, you have to make it to the toilet. Now, I'm not a guy, so I can't just like pee off the balcony. Right.
Yeah.
I was terrified. I was like, first of all, how am I going to sleep through this? I think the whole tent is going to blow away. They give you a walkie-talkie in case of an emergency. And Rob's like, should we call? I'm like, I don't know if they're going to be able to drive out here in this storm,
Oh my
like
God.
these are open air vehicles, right? So I was like, oh my God, here we go. And I was like, no, let's just wait. Let's see if it passes. I mean, it was like 3 hours of the tent, like just whoosh, whoosh. It was crazy out of control. Okay, well, so I had to improvise because there's no way. First of all, it's pouring. I can't make it out there to go to the bathroom. And second of all, I wasn't going to because I thought I was going to get eaten at any moment. You can hear everything howling, right? You can hear the coyotes. You can hear like this is whose idea was this? I paid extra to
Did
stay
you really?
here.
That's
Yes.
terrible.
So we lost our room for the night and I paid extra to stay there. Okay. If it didn't rain, it might have been a really cool experience to stay under the stars. But now that I know what I know, I would never do that again.
Yeah.
Well, so the bathroom was an issue. So guess what I did?
What?
Take a wild guess.
You just peed your pants.
No, I didn't pee my pants.
Oh.
Well, there was a bucket in the room. Guess where I peed?
In the bucket.
In the bucket.
Well, at least it wasn't your pants.
It wasn't just any bucket, though. It was the wine bucket.
That's so bad, Mom.
I don't care. I was not going to go out there and get eaten. I was like, okay, I'm being efficient here. I'm making good use of what's available to me. And sunrise was like 5:45. I was never so happy for sunrise in my life. I was like, okay, we'll be able to survive this now. And then they came and got us at like 8 something. And he was like, I was waiting for the guy that came. He's like, I was waiting for you to call. I was sure you were going to call us. I was like, oh, we should have called you.
You should have called. Oh my God. I would have
yeah.
called.
And of course, the first thing that happened when I walked in there, I have this incredible fear of spiders. And we pull back the sheets and there's a spider in the bed. And I was like, oh, why did I do this to myself? I thought it was just going to be really cool and romantic and wrong.
Yeah.
I peed in the wine bucket and
I just don't. When has the idea of sleeping outside ever been romantic?
well, the way the pictures looked, it looked really cool. And again, I thought it was part of the resort and I thought people were there like guarding you, like I didn't think that we were going to be 10 miles away from any human contact or however far we were, so. But other than that, and the craziest thing happened the next day. They have this really fancy restaurant on this property, and it's called Jan. It's actually a Michelin star restaurant in the middle of nowhere. And really, I think the only people that can go there are if you're staying at the resort because it literally is in the middle of nowhere.
Oh, I'm
Maybe you can
jealous.
drive in, and I don't know. It was really, really cool. But as we were driving there, so we had been looking for cheetahs all day, and there were these 2 male cheetahs, and we hadn't seen them. We saw a female cheetah earlier in the morning, and we're literally going there for them to drop us off for dinner. And we come flying around a turn, and there is the cheetah just lying in the middle of the road. So the guy who's driving hits the brakes. The tracker who's sitting on the front goes flying off the front and basically lands right next to the cheetah. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, he is now going to get eaten. And so the driver jumps out of the vehicle and he's like, don't get out. It's fine. It's fine. And, of course, he's talking to the tracker to make sure that he's okay. Like they thought maybe he broke his arm. And he's like, the cheetah isn't going to do anything. He's not going to do anything. And he did. The cheetah just stood up and started walking off. And of course, I had already put my camera away, so I didn't get to photograph any of it. And then
oh my God.
Two seconds later, another cheetah starts walking by. So it was both of the big males. And they just walked down the street. And I was like, I don't have my camera. And it was too dark to use my iPhone. Like you couldn't see any of it. Luckily, the guy was fine. Of course, then Dad was checking his arm and making sure he was okay. But I was like, okay, so we didn't sleep under the stars. And we almost saw a cheetah eat somebody. Although they say he wouldn't have done it. But they're like, if it was a leopard, yes, but not a cheetah. I was like, okay.
That's crazy. That's crazy that they just like know that.
Yeah, I mean, how do they really know that? That's my question.
I mean, like, once again, like if you're hungry, you're probably going to eat anything.
Right. And it looked kind of like a drought. So I would be like, I'd be eating that human, but luckily I didn't have to make that decision. So that was my exciting. It was actually a very exciting trip. And that was like probably the most humorous part was thinking that it was going to be a great idea to sleep under the stars. Note to the people out you. That's a takeaway from today. Don't choose that option. Stay in the really nice room that has your own mini bar that's fully stocked and doesn't cost anything extra. I mean, obviously it costs because you're paying for the room, but nothing extra. We're like, oh. And instead I felt like I had to limit my amount of wine because I didn't have to pee more in the bucket.
Oh my God.
I know. You do what you got to do. So Brazil was a great one. Costa Rica was a lot of fun too.
I was younger for Costa Rica.
Yeah.
I don't know. I have a really bad memory. I mean, I remember parts of it.
Yeah.
It was a lot of fun though. Like the house was really nice.
Were you with us that morning when we took the walk on the beach and the crocodile was on the beach, this massive crocodile?
Yeah.
So we took a walk and I was like, well, I'm never going to swim in this water again. I mean, it was just like hanging out there on the beach. I was like, there's crocodiles in the water right here.
Yeah.
That was pretty terrifying.
Well, yeah, but you're probably not going to like end up in a river monsters sort of situation.
Well, how do you know that? I mean, you wouldn't swim in a lake in Florida if you knew there was an alligator in it, would you?
No, I'm not dumb.
Okay, well, so you see the crocodile and now I'm going to swim in there. I mean, I know it's a big place and it could be anywhere, but I don't know. I was like, nah, thank you. I was like, everybody's going surfing. I was like, really? Do we really want to surf?
Do you remember the massive spider in Costa Rica?
Oh,
God, it was huge. I don't even baseball sized.
It was a tarantula, right?
Tarantula, yeah, that was huge. I'm not like a big bug person. They don't like, I mean, I'm not like scared of them. I don't like them. But that one was like, oh, gross.
Yeah, luckily I wasn't there right at the moment. I was there once the security guy came up and was trying to kill it. It took him a while to kill it too. It's pretty disturbing. I have another funny story. So we travel to Napa every year with friends of ours. And
I'm not invited.
No, you're not. Well, because you're not of age yet. So Jacob's invited for the first time this year. So Jacob's our first attempt at a child. I know, but did he like wine before? No. So, you got to get to a point where you actually really like wine. So we always rent a house and there's anywhere between three and four couples. We usually try to keep just three or four couples because otherwise it's hard to get reservations anywhere. So we rented a house and the last night we were there, we usually stay 3 or 4 nights. The last night we were there, obviously it's Napa, so you drink wine and maybe you drink a little bit too much wine, which was the case for me that night. And I decided that I wanted to go swimming. And I was pretty confident that we had a pool.
Yeah.
So there's 3 of us outside and I'm like, I'm going to go swim. I see the pool. I'm like, I'm going to go swimming. Like, this is amazing. And I jump in the pool and I was wearing my clothes, honestly. So,
oh, great, Mom.
Yeah, I know. Well, at least I wasn't naked, right? So I was wearing my clothes. I jump in the pool and I'm swimming and I think I'm having a great time, whatever. And the next morning we wake up and our friends were like, so what'd you guys do last night? And I was like, oh, well, I went swimming. And they're like, Simone, we don't have a pool. So I actually just swam in the neighbor's pool. And the funniest thing was they're like, show us where you swam. And we walk out there, and that pool was completely set up for like a bridal shower or something. I didn't destroy anything, so don't you worry. But I was like, oh my gosh, hilarious. This was, I don't know how many years ago. So who knows if they had a camera out there or not. But if they did, they would have had a really amusing story to tell their friends. But yeah, so that was from then on. They're like, Simone, do we need to get a house with a pool? I'm like, no, we're good. We're good. I learned my lesson.
One-time incident.
Yeah. I mean, we did have one other time we had a house. We actually had a house with a pool, which was really nice. But in general, I learned my lesson about not assuming the pool was our pool.
Yeah, I think that's a really great way to go into situations.
Let me ask before I jump in.
Yeah.
When Jacob was a baby, I forget how old he was, maybe like 18 months, something like that. We took a trip to Steamboat Springs in Colorado to go skiing. And this was back when we lived in Texas. And the same friends that we travel with to Napa, it was before she was married. So it was her and her boyfriend at the time. We were meeting them in Steamboat Springs. And so I forget if we were on the same last flight together. I don't think so. I think we just met them there. So our flight was canceled, and because of the snow, they don't have where we were landing, they didn't have a tower, so they couldn't see it. They were like, the snow is too bad, you're gonna have to fly into Denver. And then they did it again and said, okay, no, I think we're good, you can fly into Steamboat. So we're on this flight, and we think we're almost there, and then they say, well, we have a little problem. We can't tell if our landing gear is going down. We're having an error with the system. So we don't know if our landing gear is going to work or not. So we're going to have to fly back to Denver. We're going to have to fly to Denver, and we're going to have to do an emergency landing because, again, we don't know if the landing gear is going to hold. And they couldn't do it at Steamboat. First of all, they don't have enough emergency personnel if it did crash. And they didn't have a tower, right? So
how can you have an airport without a tower?
Well, it doesn't have a tower big enough. I don't know exactly how it works, or I don't know. So I'm not an air
Neither am I, honestly.
person, but I just knew that we couldn't do it there. So we're pulling into, we're flying towards Denver. And as we get closer to the airport, you can see all of the flashing lights from all the emergency vehicles that are on, waiting for us to crash, basically. And so we asked the flight attendant, we're like, okay, we had Jacob and he's sitting in my lap. What do we do with him? She's like, well, assume the emergency position over him. I'm like, how is that even physically possible? Like, bend your body over the baby. I was like, I think that's called killing the baby,
Oh my God.
So I was like, and people were throwing up, people were crying hysterically. Like, they really thought like this was it. Story short, that obviously the landing gear held.
Yeah, you guys are fine.
Today to tell the story. So then the issue was the storm was hitting. So it had like kind of waned a bit, and then the storm was like back on. So we weren't going to be flying anywhere. So we had to drive. And so they were getting buses for people. And we were like, let's just get a driver to take us. The buses might take forever. I don't know. It was another dumb choice. Okay. So we find a company who will take us. And so I think it's just the 5 of us that were there. Mm-hmm. I can't remember if they added anybody else to it, but so we're driving, and at one point the guy stops and he's like trying to wake himself up. This is the driver. He's like smacking his legs. He's outside jumping up and down, because this is like now 1:00 in the morning or something, and we're probably not getting there until 7:00 in the morning. So he's got a big drive ahead of him. And so then I'm like, okay, Rob, you have to go sit up front with this guy, because if he falls asleep, we're screwed. Like, you have to be up there. And I was like, you have to talk to him. So then he starts asking him questions, and he says, oh yeah, I just moved here and I forget where, like Phoenix or something like that. He's like, so I really haven't been driving in the snow very much. And I was like, are you kidding me? We're in the middle of a snowstorm and you don't even know how to drive in the snow. He's like, yeah, but I've been really practicing. So we had to stop somewhere. And so he takes us into a parking lot and tries to show us that he can do donuts and control them. And I lost it. I was like, don't ever do that again. Drive the car. We're getting there. That's it. Like of course, I had a lot of swear words coming out of my mouth when I said it, but I was like, this is the most ridiculous thing ever. I have, an infant in the car and you're trying to show me that you're capable of driving by doing donuts in a parking lot on ice. And I was like, again, we made it. The next morning we got there. Now, the funniest thing was all of our luggage went on the bus. And of course, the bus got there way before we did because we were driving with a guy who didn't know how to drive in the snow. And so they left all of the luggage in a Walmart parking lot. And of course, the only luggage left in that parking lot was our luggage. Everybody else had taken the bus for free and got there way quicker than we did. So that's another lesson learned.
Yeah, I would say so.
Go with the group. Go with the group. Yeah, but that was a stressful one because really everybody on the plane really thought that was it. I was kind of like, what are we going to do? Like this, it is what it is, right? And
God, what? It is what it is mentality, and you think your plane's going to crash? Jesus.
Well, I can't fix it.
Yeah, I guess you're right.
I mean, I could puke all over Jacob if I wanted to, right? But yeah, no. So we survived it. We went skiing a few other times after that, but never to that same area. I was like, let's go to airports where they're easier to get to because that one's a hard one. That's a hard place to get to. I also wanted to, do you remember, I think we've talked about this before, but it's just worth revisiting because our 2 trips to Italy, both of them have ridiculous stories, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you should tell the story from your perspective. I mean, you were little, so I don't know what you really remember.
I don't remember much of it. I remember that I had, what is it, like rotavirus, right?
Yeah, you had rotavirus.
Right before. But I guess I was cleared to fly.
Yeah, your chart actually said discharged to Italy.
That's funny.
But that's what Alan wrote in it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, yeah.
So, I mean, like, we already started, like, the trip off on, like, should we be traveling right now? But, like, it wasn't an option. I mean, it was her best friend's wedding, and, I mean, everything was already planned for. So we went. I was very young. So it was just the 3 older ones on the first one. So, I don't know. It was probably 4 or 3. And I remember Jacob having a seizure in the hotel room. And that was has he ever had a seizure ever again?
No.
So that was just like, great. Okay, we're in Italy. Luckily, Rob's a neurosurgeon and knows what to do.
I lost it. I was like, we need to go home. We need to go home.
Yeah, that would have been for me like, oh, I should, it's like a sign not to travel. But we got to the villa eventually. I don't know how long like our trip in Italy was. I don't remember if that one we did a cruise or not. I don't think we did, right?
We did because that's how.
Cruise?
Yeah, that was the Princess Cruise because that was when once we got to the cruise, I could let my mom watch Jacob because like I really hadn't slept in days because every 2 seconds I was waking him up or
why
Rob
didn't
was
Grandma
waking
go
him
with
up.
us?
She was on another trip. She was somewhere else. She was somewhere else. Yeah.
So that was a long trip then. Then if we did the cruise and then the villa for the wedding.
We were gone 3 weeks back in the day. Yeah, 3 weeks we were gone for. Yeah.
Last time you did I guess with Dad, you did a 3-week trip.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, South Africa was.
So I feel bad telling the story again, but there is an infamous day in my life, which I've like written essays on this story because I think it's just really, really funny. It's like objectively, like if you looked at my entire life from like an outside angle, that would probably be like the quote unquote worst day that she's ever had. So that was the day that unfortunately Rob, I have to break him up. My dad crashed the car because the streets got too skinny and he thought he could fit the car in San Gimignano. Gimignano. But the streets are so narrow, they're not made for cars. Like much
it's a walled
like
city.
A white
you don't
van.
drive into the city.
Yeah, I don't know where that concept came up. So we got stuck in the car. Somehow he backed it out, white van damaged. whatever, deal with at the rental place. We're still going to go out and have a good day. Mind you, the entire day. Oh, and it's just my dad. And we've told this before, but it's just my dad and Shan's dad, right?
Yeah.
So no women involved in this situation. Watch us.
Maybe there's the problem.
Well, I honestly, like, I feel like someone else would have noticed faster if I was complaining my feet were hurting all day. So yeah, I started the day like my feet have been hurting all day. My feet have been hurting all day. So that's like a theme. But this story is the one where I get stuck in the cleaning cycle of the self-cleaning bathrooms that they have. So the way the bathrooms work, in some bathrooms in Italy, you pay to get in, you go do your business, and then once you leave, it closes up and it just cleans itself. It's like a full sanitation cycle, essentially. But I was like literally 3. So A, didn't know that because I'm American. B, I needed to pee, saw a bathroom, was going to go pee. So I run in immediately as the people exit, not knowing this. And I'm like stuck in there during the cleaning cycle. Yeah, there's a button to get out, but like it's higher up. I'm stuck in a cleaning cycle. Like I don't remember it at all. So by the end of it, it's like a 3-minute cleaning cycle. By the end of it, I'm like a drowned rat, just like shoes on the wrong feet still. Yeah. That's like why my feet have been hurting all the day. Shoes on the wrong feet, completely soaked with cleaning fluid, water, God knows what else. But the shoes those were not found out until we got home with the women. That's what I'm saying.
Yes, that's what I'm saying too.
Yeah. And that was a big trip for me too, because maybe it was the virus right before, but I was so car sick on everything in that trip.
Yeah, you were. So we had 2 trips to Italy. The first one, you were puking everywhere. And maybe it was because you were just recovering from
and
the
I still get car sick, but not to that extent anymore. And like, I don't know if that's just like I'm grown now and can control it, but that trip was particularly bad.
Yeah. And then the second trip, we were going to the same thing. It was actually like a reunion for it was like we were celebrating their wedding anniversary. It was supposed to be 5 years, really but it was like, it was great. And same kind of experience.
But all the kids were here this time.
Yes. And Millie was little. And when Millie was little, she got car sick all of the time. We call it the puking tour of Italy because even until the last moment when we we pull into the airport hotel, and right before we got to the airport hotel, we're literally like in the driveway of it, and she pukes everywhere. And so we're pulling everything out of the car, and all of her like everything was. I was like, okay,
she was stripping her down young on that trip.
Yeah, she was really little, and so then they go. So I go to check in. You guys are hanging out with the younger kids, and Rob and Jacob take the car back to return. Now, this car has already been smashed once.
Right.
And they go into the parking garage, and it's got really low ceilings. And so he says to the guy who's running the garage, he's like, the car's not going to fit. And he said, you have to take it to the 3rd floor. You have to take it to the 3rd floor. And Rob said, fine. I mean, again, we know that when we travel internationally, we buy the additional insurance, so we never have to think about it. So he's driving in the garage, and there's literally like sparks flying off of the roof of the car because it's hitting the top of the parking garage the entire time. So sparks are just going everywhere. And Rob's like, well, we got rid of the car.
You take the loss. You take the loss on that one. I did that. Okay, sorry.
Yeah, that was a bad one. But it seems like there's always something when you travel with 6 people. It's kind of hard not to have.
I mean, even when I travel by myself, there's always something. I mean, most recently, finally, I'm getting it back. My package should arrive on Monday, but I lost my makeup bag with all of my cosmetics and all of my earrings and my rings. Took forever to get these people on the phone and like actually be like, I've sent you my information like 5 times. Can you please send it back? I was supposed to come yesterday, but I don't know why. They sent it on like Monday. I was like, customs doesn't work that fast. Like, chill. So,
well, it's amazing that you're even getting it back because I know stuff in places and they've never
you just
found
take the L.
Yeah, you're just like, okay. And I know like you didn't want to take it, but it's good that you called and they actually, had it and were honest about it because a lot of times that doesn't happen either. Yeah. So yeah, you were really lucky.
I got lucky with that one.
Okay, we're almost out of time, but I want to tell a couple more stories. So here's one of the craziest stories, and this isn't my story. This is my parents' story. My parents were in Argentina, And my mom was like oblivious to what was happening, and they're literally almost back to the hotel. And so she walks into the hotel and she looks, and my dad isn't behind her, and who knows when the last time she looked was, but he wasn't behind her. So she comes back outside again, and he's holding his eye. Someone had tried to steal the camera off of his shoulder, and the guy stabbed him. And fortunately, he stabbed him like right next to the eyeball, so it didn't go like through his eyeball itself. But can you imagine? Like, he did not get the camera, though. My dad held on for dear life.
Yeah, I'm not surprised by that.
He did not get any of it. But yeah, he stabbed him. I'm like, who does that happen to? Okay, our family. Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, I've never known anyone that's been stabbed before, so that's cool, I guess.
And he didn't lose his eye, so that's really good.
That's even more impressive, honestly. And he kept the camera. But he did walk away with a stab wound.
Yes, so. He did walk away with a stab wound. You know, it healed properly, though, and you can never see it. It seems like majority of our travel issues really have to do with whether it's bathroom issues, projectile vomiting. There's something like on every... and this will be the last story I leave you with because it's really gross. I was in Berlin on a mission trip.
Bad story.
I know. And we were visiting a work camp, and...
I can't help but laugh. I'm sorry.
We first get there. So this is, we're seeing a camp where people were held by the Nazis and they were made to work there. And then from there, they would be sent off to concentration camps. And we pull up, and instantly I'm like, I don't feel good. And I thought maybe this was like an emotional thing. No, I go to the bathroom, and I felt like I was on, what's that movie? Oh, Pitch Perfect. Mm-hmm. I projectile vomited, like hit the back wall of the bathroom. I'm like, what just happened to me? And we're there, and finally I'm running back and forth to the bathroom. And finally I said to the guy, I was like, I need someone to take me back to the hotel. This is like so disrespectful for me right now to be, vomiting in. Yeah, it was so horrible. So the person who's in charge of the tour, she ended up taking me back. They had to go check the next space before we got there, before the group got there anyways. So she has me laying down in the van, and I'm saying, how much longer? And she's like, 15 minutes. I'm like, oh, I'm not going to make it 15 minutes. I was like, I need you to pull over now. I need you to pull over now. And they open, I literally grab the door. It's a big van. I grab the door and I don't even make it out of the van. I stand on the side. I'm literally projectile vomiting in the streets of Berlin. And
better than in a concentration.
Oh, yeah. Wow. So I was like, okay, I was like, really yeah, who does that happen to? Projectile vomiting on the streets of Berlin. And then I went back to the hotel. I stayed alone that night. I had a roommate, but she opted to stay with somebody else, which was a very smart choice. And I recovered. So, and then I was fine the next day to keep going. But yeah, it seems like so many of our stories involve, well, obviously me puking. It seems to happen to me like on a very regular basis, but it seems to be something in the family as well. I think the only one that hasn't had issues like that is Ari. Ari's been like solid health-wise every time we travel.
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so that went by really fast.
I know.
Yeah, listen to our ridiculous stories, and hopefully we make you laugh at least. So, takeaways. I gave some takeaways earlier.
Follow the group.
Yeah, follow the group. Don't decide to sleep under the stars when you have a nice hotel room.
Yeah, I think going to view the stars is fine. No one sleeps well outside. If you have the option for the bed, go for the bed.
Yeah, agreed. And make sure you bring lots of antibiotics with you when you travel.
Pack the right meds. As someone that has grown up in so many foreign countries, pack the right meds. And don't drink the water.
Don't drink the water. Don't eat the raw vegetables unless, drink the bottled water. Okay, that's what we're leaving with you today. Thanks so much for joining us. If you like what we're doing, follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and even on LinkedIn. Simone Canego, Olivia Canego, the Daughter Dearest podcast. And
actually add me on LinkedIn.
Yeah, add me on LinkedIn. I have a LinkedIn too.
I forgot about that.
I know. She's so official now that she has her internship. She's got to, get her followers. But you got to keep posting though too. So anyway, so we'll be back again next week, and we'll get to humor you even more next week. So thanks so much for joining us on the Daughter Dearest podcast, and we'll talk to you soon.
Bye.